Hello and welcome to Quays News. I'm George Ike.
And I'm Brooke Hennigan. Coming up on today's programme, a Salford councillor has spoken to Quays News from an air raid shelter in Jerusalem following a surprise attack from the Palestinian militant group Hamas.
People are staying close to staying home because the sirens can come at any time. And when the siren sounds, here in Jerusalem we've got 90 seconds, 9 hours, till it reach a shelter.
By next April, anyone earning the national living wage will be getting £11 per hour, but some people say it's just not enough.
It's very important, yeah. Its minimum is like 10.42, yeah. It's very hard to survive on the 10.42, yeah. So definitely because of the cost of living, yeah. So
Bed bugs have been spotted on Manchester's public transport systems following an outbreak in France. And the Etihad Stadium has been announced as one of the 10 stadiums that will host Euros 2028. A councillor from Salford has today contacted Quays News from an air raid shelter in Jerusalem. Andrew Walters and his family are currently trapped following Saturday's incursion in Israel. However, it is unknown when he and hundreds of other British nationals will be lifted out.
Joining us in the studio is our reporter Lewis Henderson, who can tell us more on the councillor Andrew Walters situation. So Lewis, what's the latest?
Well, it's a very unprecedented situation for Councillor Walters and many hundreds of Brits. I mean, it's a very fast-moving situation and quite worrying too, with several flights being cancelled. Fortunately, Councillor Walters was kind enough to speak to us earlier today.
It's crazy. The roads are empty. People are staying close to staying home because the sirens can come at any time. And when the siren sounds, here in Jerusalem we've got 90 seconds, 9 hours, till it reach a shelter. There were two yesterday, and in Jerusalem it's 90 seconds to reach a shelter. Some places it's as much as 30. And obviously this is not just the physical issues; it's the mental scarring. The kids are terrified, so on and so forth. The bomb exploded very close to where my brother-in-law lives. Fortunately, no one was hurt. 3 cars were destroyed, but they're coming pretty indiscriminately, as it were. Don't seem to be targeted a particular area, or if they are, they're not hitting them. And these are residential areas. We're not talking about military areas, so it's obviously very worrying. And it's just a case of we've got to keep calm and carry on, as it were.
Office have told British nationals in Israel to register their presence with them to give them important updates for their safety and to let them know when they can leave the country as well.
Thanks for that, Lewis. Back to more of today's stories. And the national living wage is going to be increased next April following an announcement by Chancellor Jeremy Hunt. It means all workers over 23 are going to receive over £11 an hour.
However, the news hasn't been welcomed by everyone. Our reporter Phoebe McHugh spoke to workers in Salford about what they think of the announcement and whether they think it is enough to combat the cost of living crisis.
Last week, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt announced that the national living wage would be increased from £10.42 to £11 for all over 23s in the UK. Ali Balak owns a phone shop in Salford and highlighted that the current minimum wage is not enough for people to live off and that customer priority has changed. Therefore, he is seeing less people come into his phone shop.
minimum is like 10.42, yeah. It's very hard to survive on the 10.42, yeah. So definitely because of the cost of living, yeah. So it's very, even if you go from Manchester to London, yeah, the ticket costs like more than £100. To be honest, because of the cost of living crisis, yeah, we are unable to, because of the no business, yeah. If it's the more business, of course we can hire more people. As you can see that this morning is just quiet, yeah. Because people right now their priorities are changed. They are going for the the priorities are for the food and everything. So we are not much priority. We used to be very busy, yeah. Because once the stomach is full, then it's come to the phones and or different business. That's why.
Despite the fragrance shop in Salford already paying above the national living wage, manager Laura Clavin has noticed less customers due to people having to prioritise necessities over luxuries.
I think they deserve more. We deserve more because everything's gone up. I just don't think it's justified. As like the fragrance shop, we've always been like quite progressive. We've always given like minimum wage or above, so we are quite good like that as a company. But like I said, the cost of living could affect us hiring like Christmas times and stuff. It is hard. Like from last year, we were making double the amount we were this year, so it's a real struggle. But because it's Christmas, we will pick up. Like we're not struggling, but we're not like doing as well as last year. We'll literally buy one perfume maybe every 3-4 months now, where it used to be like once a month. It was like a luxury, it was a treat, but now it's, now I need to feed myself, I need to feed my pet, I need to like budget.
Even though the national living wage will increase in April next year, there is still uncertainty as to whether this matches the real living wage of workers across the country. With supermarket prices and petrol prices still increasing as a result of the cost of living crisis, it has left people wondering if this wage increase will make a difference. Phoebe McHugh, Quays News.
A&E departments are seeing a huge rise in people attending with minor injuries.
Data released by NHS England has seen more than a 50% rise in people going to A&E with hiccups, nasal congestion and backache.
Our reporter Beth Whiteman's been to Salford Royal Hospital to find out more.
Yes, thank you, George and Brooke. Salford Royal, as you can see behind me, is one of the many A&E departments seeing a rise in people attending for minor illnesses such as coughs, sore throats and earaches. Pressure on the NHS is at an all-time high, with many people finding themselves at A&E when other services such as GPs and dental practices are not available. Cases where a sore throat was the main complaint rose by 77% between 2021 and 2023, from 191,900 cases to 340,441. Patients also went to A&E requesting medication, with cases rising by a fifth from 31,960 to 38,435. Miriam Deacon, Director of Policy and Strategy at NHS Providers, said, "Minor ailments such as coughs, earache, fever, nausea and hiccups can and should be managed through more appropriate services such as pharmacies and NHS 111 online."
There has been rising concern following sightings of bed bugs across Manchester's transport systems.
The critters that have come over from France have made institutions, including hotels, go on to high alert.
We are joined in the studio by our reporter Ian Tosiga. So Ian, what's the issue going around with bed bugs and how did it start?
So yes, a bedbug was spotted on the first bus 59 in Manchester to Oldham following an outbreak of bedbugs in France. A concerned passenger posted the picture to X showing a bedbug climbing on the window of the first bus and urged the public transport operator to do something quickly about this. This comes amid fears that an infestation of super bedbugs in Paris would sweep through the UK with hotels and transport operators on red alert. This could come as a concern as bedbugs were spotted also in the London Underground.
So what can be done to stop this ongoing issue, Ian?
Yes, so bedbugs have been common in Manchester for many years, and it is essential to avoid cluttering on beds or double checking second-hand furniture before taking it indoors. And data from pest control company Rent to Kill also showed that from 2022 to 2023, the UK saw a 65% rise in bedbug infestations.
Langworthy Cornerstone have held a photography exhibition which shows Salford's history.
There was a presentation with a local curator and a local historian, Lawrence Cassidy, about the project.
Our reporter Ben Fieldhouse went to Langworthy Cornerstone to meet photographer Lawrence Cassidy to discuss his new restored collection.
We're here at Langworthy Cornerstone when Lawrence Cassidy is showcasing his collection of restored photographs from the 1950s that show post-war life in Salford and Cheetham Hill.
The collection shows Salford schools that were built in the 50s and 60s, all demolished now. Places like Hodsall High, Clarendon, Hope High, Broughton Modern, and various other schools. The other thing that consists of is there's thousands of portraits from that period, and we don't know who the portraits are of. On some occasions people have come forward and said, oh, that's me when I was 17 and they're in the 80s now or the 90s. A lot of it is, you know, things like industries, shop fronts on Cheetham Hill, factories, textiles and fashions of the period, you know, beehive haircuts like you can see in some of these photographs. It's interesting because in the last 15, 20 years, it's more, this area, so we're in Salford 6 now, become much more multicultural. So there's a lot of African people living here now. And in fact, there's an African art show on in the next gallery. So it's more of a reflection, really, I think, on Salford now than as it was in a way. So it's more inclusive, as in terms of its multicultural context.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has been accused of making transphobic comments at the Tory conference in Manchester.
Our reporters Mia Williamson and Jolie Billington have been to meet a member of the trans community to see what they had to say on the Prime Minister's comments.
Last week at the Conservative Party conference, Health Secretary Steve Barclay and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made comments about trans people and their identities. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said,
"And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman."
Tyler, a trans man from Salford, has been directly affected by the comments made by the Conservative Party.
I think it's quite funny, to be honest, because that's what trans people face daily. You tell someone you're trans, you're more likely than not going to get bullied for it. And a Prime Minister basically inciting his party to hate on people for being how they are is stupid. You shouldn't be able to do that.
Health Secretary Steve Barclay has proposed a ban on trans women from female-only wards.
The whole policy and everything is based on women feeling unsafe with men in their spaces and stuff, which I can understand, but how would you then expect someone that's a transitioned woman or whatever to go into men's spaces and be comfortable with that? Why should it only work one way?
The general public showed similar distaste for the comments made at the conference.
I think when trans people make up only 0.5% or thereabouts of the population within the UK, and there's so much other bigger crises going on with the cost of living, with other kind of things like that, I don't understand why he would focus his attention onto negatively commenting on such a small population when the rest of the greater population is having so many bigger issues in the UK.
Initial emotion was just anger, and then quickly after, just massively upset. I can't even comprehend that a supposed leader of our country is openly being so transphobic, and beyond that it's hate speech and it's lies, it's fear-mongering, and I just feel so sad for the state of the world.
A couple from Manchester have begun restorations on a 200-year-old building in Farnworth after receiving a grant of over £660,000.
They're hoping to develop a visitors centre and are now also offering outdoor activities at the old paper mill site. Our reporter Ewan Wishart went to find out more.
Rock Hall, which is situated in Moses Gate Country Park in Farnworth, was built in 1807 by John Crompton. The local paper manufacturer built the hall to accommodate him and his family, so they were close by to the Cromptons' family-owned business, Farnworth Paper Mill. The paper mills were eventually demolished in the 1970s, and steps were taken to establish the area as a country park.
Rock Hall had been for many years the beating heart of Moses Gate Country Park. It was used as a visitor centre in the early 1980s, before later being used as the headquarters for the local warden service and park rangers. Then, due to a lack of funding, the historic building was eventually closed in 2014.
However, over the last few years, the hall has been given a lifeline, and that's in part down to the ambition, drive and dedication of local couple Jane and Christopher Ullman.
My charity was looking for a building to manage. We decided to grow the charity and find a building that we could turn into a community-focused centre. And a friend of mine told me about Rock Hall. I came to see it with my husband and I fell in love straight away.
Jane and her husband Chris decided to take on the project, naming it Save Rock Hall Farnworth. Over the past 4 years, their charity, Banana Enterprise Network, has raised $295,000 towards the project.
For local people, Rock Hall has been like that focus. We say Rock Hall is the jewel in the park, but as you can see, what's missing in the park is a cafe, a function room, and that's what the hall's going to be turned into, with some training rooms and a shop. It's going to be totally focused on the community and provide lots of activities in the park as well.
As well as working to rejuvenate Rock Hall, Banana Enterprise Network have also been working to lease new life into the local community. Heritage activities like archery and axe throwing are helping to bring the community together, whilst also keeping them in touch with the local history.
As a family, what we found is we've been to quite a lot of them. We've been to archery, we've been to axe throwing, etc. It's great because you just speaking to people from all different walks of life and all doing the same thing, and it's a great bringing people together. I've really enjoyed it, I must say.
In September, the Allmans were given the news that the National Lottery Heritage Fund had agreed to donate the extra $466,000 that was needed for the development stage of the hall to begin. Jane explained her reaction upon hearing the news.
Have had so much emotion building up because I just burst into tears. It was really embarrassing, and I just said, "Oh my God, I don't believe it! Thank you so much, thank you." And my husband was sat there at the time, and I just gave him the thumbs up, and he started crying as well.
Well, I think the point with this place, and you can just see it today, can't you, that it's just so well used by everybody. But once you've got another facility, then it's just an additional attraction, isn't it, to the place.
Although the full restoration of Rock Hall won't be completed for at least another few years, locals like Ian will now have some peace of mind in the knowledge that the plans for the building are actually coming to fruition.
As you grow older and you get your own family, you bring them here, and it's just part and parcel of the area. This is where everybody comes, and it'll be absolutely fantastic, obviously, when that gets opened up again and it's all refurbished and it's got even more things for all the community to enjoy.
Now time for some sports news in the studio with Patrick Colleen.
Thanks, guys. Well, the big news today in sport is that the UK and Ireland have been announced as the hosts for the European Championships in 2028. Just one of the two big Manchester stadiums will be housing matches at the tournament, though, with Manchester City's Etihad Stadium being favoured over Manchester United's Old Trafford. The 5 host nations, however, are likely to have to qualify for Euro 2028 on merit, rather than gaining automatic qualification for winning the bid. But England boss Gareth Southgate was still optimistic about the tournament, saying that it will be brilliant for everybody when the opportunity arises. Well, the Etihad might have had a big win today, but that wasn't the case for Manchester City at the weekend. They lost 1-0 away to a late Gabriel Martinelli winner at Arsenal, who leapfrogged them in the table. Tottenham Hotspur also beat Luton, meaning City now drop down to 3rd. Elsewhere, Manchester United picked up a dramatic late 3 points thanks to 2 stoppage time Scott McTominay goals. His heroic late cameo in a 2-1 win lifted the pressure off manager Erik ten Hag after United had lost 3 of their last 4 league games. Further down the leagues now, and Salford City continued their rich vein of form with a 3rd straight win, beating Crewe Alexandra 4-2. Veteran striker Matt Smith scored a brace and admitted the side were finally starting to feel like the one that reached last season's playoffs. Manchester United's all-time top goal scorer Wayne Rooney is set to be announced as Birmingham City's new manager. He will replace John Eustace, who was controversially sacked after taking the Blues to 6th in the Championship. And on to Rugby League now, as the biggest game of the season approaches. The 25th edition of the Super League Grand Final will take place this Saturday night at Old Trafford, as the Wigan Warriors take on debutants Catalan Dragons. Catalan's semi-final win over St Helens last weekend meant they will become the first ever French side to compete in a grand final. And from 2 teams with work to do on the field to ones who have already started work off it, Salford Red Devils have confirmed that their top try scorer for the last 2 seasons, Ken Seo, has signed a new 1-year deal at the club. The Samoan international has scored 78 tries in 102 games since joining in 2019. And that's all for sport. Back to Brooke and George in the studio.
Thanks, Patrick. Brooke, have you been to see the Salford Red Devils play?
No, I have not.
Neither. The closest I've made it is the carvery next door. That's honestly the best bit.
That's all of us from today on Quays News. You can keep up to date on our social media pages.
Thanks for watching the show. Goodbye for now.